Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you in this StudyIQ, the Hindu editorial videos. These videos they come in the morning and the PIB videos they come in the evening. And I upload these PDFs daily on StudyIQ Telegram channel and on my Facebook group, that is Amit Sani Group for IAS Preparation. So there you can download them. And today is 7th of February and it is Thursday. So many articles are there. Maximum number of articles are there on the day of Thursday. So we are going to discuss these articles, and the rest of the matter we are going to discuss tomorrow. So the motivation: don't feel calm seeing others fail. Satisfy yourself with your own success. You see, 99% people, they do this thing. They see others fail, so they talk about it, they feel happy, they feel somehow relaxed, but it is not going to help them in the longer term. For a short period of time they may feel somewhat relaxed, but it is not adding anything in their success. So satisfy yourself with your own success. That is going to help really. Actually, this is the habit of the most successful people on earth, that they are only caring about their own success, how they are doing, how they are performing. They are totally focused on their own performance. They don't think about others are failing or others are getting success or not. But important is that you are becoming successful. You just be aware of the situation all around, the things which are happening, but concentrate on your own performance. That is going to bring you great results. And these words that I found in the editorials today, and try them in sentences. Now this article, checks and balances, it talks about regarding the VVPAT and its printed slips and their counts. So it is important for the GS paper too. It says, seeking a count of 50% of VVPAT slips, it is too much. The focus should be on ending glitches. You see, in this editorial, it is talking about the issues of EVM. You see, because a lot of issues are going on regarding EVM's tampering issue, and the opposition parties, they are always alleging that some tampering and some manipulations are going on with the EVM during election time. But now they have changed their stance. They were demanding paper ballot system again, but now they are changing, and the shift is towards the demand of 50% counting of these VVPAT printed slips. What are these VVPAT printed slips? It is a voter verified paper audit trail. Means whatever button you press and then the slip comes out, it has the impression of the same political party symbol whom you have given your vote. So maybe it's a Congress, BJP or some other party. So the same symbol would be there on that printed slip. So the counting of that particular slip, that is the main issue here, and the parties are demanding that there should be 50% counting. Now see, what is the present rule? If you talk about the present rule, then out of all these constituencies, in a single constituency they would choose one booth randomly, and in this booth they will do the counting. If that looks fine, if that is satisfying their suspicion, so that is done, and they don't inquire it more further. But the demand is, as one retired IAS, he has also suggested that this sample size, when you are choosing one random sample, and that cannot tell you the real situation, because maybe other machines are not working fine, and then maybe there are some insider frauds are going on some other booths. That is a possibility. It's a kind of a chance that you find that in that particular random sample, maybe you are not finding the other samples. So more than one sample should be inquired, and the sample size should be increased. That is the issue. And the same thing is being proposed here by the opposition parties, that there should be at least 50% machines, VVPATs, printed slips counting, so that half of the these printed slips are counted. It would be same like the paper ballot system when they are counting these particular ballot papers. So 50% is an excess. According to the editor, 50% would be an overreaction. That is not needed. There are some other positive developments, some other positive steps that you can take. What are those? Machine glitches are a major issue. You see, these VVPAT machines, these are hardware sensitive and weather sensitive machines, because printing is involved here, and the spooling process is certainly there, and that is a major problem, and that's why many machines, around 20% of them, failed in the by-elections, and they said that it is due to the hot weather. But you see, now after some hardware changes, these issues heavily came down, and now they have come to 1.89% in Chhattisgarh elections. Only 1.89% machines were replaced. So now with these hardware changes, you can go ahead with the VVPAT machines. Next important improvement that you can bring here, and that is the same, where you choose more than one samples randomly, and more booths you are choosing, then it ensures the transparency, and it ensures that there are no suspicions left, because only one sample when it is taken, then it is not sufficient, and it amounts to a lot of future claims of tampering and all. So you take more than one samples, and counting of more than a single booth in some states may be a better method according to the writer. So this is all given in this particular editorial, and all these issues are discussed heavily in the past month, and things are going on, and many things are about to come, because this is the election year and elections are due. So many things. Next, we need a leap in healthcare spending. This is regarding the reality. This is regarding the mirror showing to the government, and this is regarding being aware about the comparison of India's claims with developed nations. Okay, so it is going to be important for the GS paper 2 and GS paper 3, and maybe an essay topic is also supported here. Next, center and state governments have introduced several innovations in the healthcare sector in recent times. Everyone agrees with that. In line with Indian relentless pursuit of reforms, these are going on. You see, every time they come up with new schemes, and many more are going on, and they change their names. So this is always counted as reforms that's going on. But you see, the reality of India's healthcare spending, it is only 1.15 to 1.5% of GDP, and that is so shameful. If we compare our spending with the USA's spending, USA's spending is 18% of the GDP. 18%. So big the GDP numbers are there with USA, and 18% are expenditure on healthcare sector. And you see, we have made a target of 2.5% of GDP by 2025. Anyhow, we have to make it possible, and that looks bleak today. Why? Because the way we are spending today, that is never gonna take us to the 2.5% level of GDP, because we need to invest more than 25% extra for the next 5 to 6 years. And the kind of budget allocation we saw in the interim budget this year, that is never matching this particular target. And even this 2.5% is a shameful target, because so big claims we have surpassed France. We have become the 6th biggest nation in the world in the terms of GDP numbers, but still we are not able to spend more than 2.5%. And the reality is, today we are spending nearly 1 to 1.5% of the GDP only. So big this nation is. 130 crore people are living in India, and we have these datas. Now see, total allocation which is done this year in this budget is 61,398 crore rupees, and it is only 2.2% of the budget. You see, it is a percentage of the budget, and these numbers are percentage of GDP. Okay, so mark the difference here. Next, the increase of 7,000 crore rupees is there this year. That's okay, but this increase roughly equates the 6,400 crore rupees allocated for the Ayushman Bharat Jan Arogya Yojana. So that's the addition, and that is the most ambitious flagship scheme this year. And earlier it used to be a Rashtriya Swasthya Suraksha Bima Yojana, and now it has converted into National Health Protection Scheme. That's a bigger one. It's an umbrella scheme, and it's a huge scheme, and that is called Ayushman Bharat. And health and wellness centers are announced in these districts, where PHCs, public health centers, primary health centers, and community health centers, and district hospitals and sub centers at the lowest level. So it is a hierarchy. So these hospitals are going to be upgraded, and they will convert themselves into health and wellness centers. So 1.5 lakh health and wellness centers are announced under this health protection scheme, and diagnostic laboratories and all these will be added to these hospitals, and the capacity would be increased. So that's the target under this particular scheme, and 6,400 crore rupees are allocated for this. But you see, among all these reforms, if we go with the numbers of per capita expenditure on the health, you see, with India in 2009 and 10, it was 621 rupees, and in 2016 year it has come to 1112 rupees, means just double the number. And some are saying that in 2018 data it is nearly 1500 rupees. So this is the per capita expenditure on health that has gone more than the double numbers, but our expenditure on health, that is nowhere a match to this. You see, if we adjust it with the purchasing power parity, then it is more than $100 per person. So that's a huge number. And if we compare the situation of average poor person of India and this $100, it's a huge amount. And you see, that's why 67% of this expenditure is the out of the pocket expenditure, means they are bearing this economic burden on themselves. Nobody is supporting them. That's why this health protection scheme is extremely needed. And this Ayushman Bharat, that is promising 5 lakh rupees per year. That's a huge amount, but how they are going to implement it, that's a different question. If we see the condition of USA, they are spending $10,224 per capita on health per year. It's per year 2017 data, $10,224. You see the comparison here, and it is 100 times more than India's numbers. And they are spending 18% of their GDP. And if we see the percentage of budget allocation, then it is more than 23.5%. USA's budget and percentage is 23.5%. And India's budget allocation and its percentage of the health is 2.2%. So you see what is the difference between a developed country and what is the difference between a aspiring country like India. What we are actually doing here, you see, they know the importance of health. They know that health is going to add to the GDP numbers ultimately. And these healthy people, among these diseased people, many people are geniuses, and these geniuses are going to raise the country's standard. They are going to raise the GDP numbers. For sure they are doing it, and America knows about this. That's why they spend on education and health so much. But you see, it is the condition of India where they don't pay any attention to the education sector, health sector, and the social security sector and employment sector. And ultimately they are raising a particular crowd, a population that is uneducated, that is not healthy, and these people are struggling always. They are involved in some anti-social activities, and ultimately they are creating chaos. And ultimately during the election time, government has to bring these welfare schemes and populist measures for these poor people. So this is a vicious cycle. This happens because governments, they don't want to spend for longer term. They just want votes, that anyhow after 5 years we get more and more votes. And expenditure in these sectors of health, education, and social sector, hospitals and all. So this is going to bring results after many years, maybe 10, 20, 15 years. So who is gonna wait till that time? So political parties, they cannot wait that much. That's why they bring these kind of foolish measures of welfare schemes and populist measures. And they don't wanna invest in agricultural technologies. They don't want to invest in health sector. They don't want to invest in research and development. And that's why our country is never out of this vicious cycle. And these numbers, they are showing us that what is the difference between a progressive country and a country which is lagging in all these measures and which is always mired with these hindrances of progress. If today we want to invest in R&D, then always fund crunches are there. But you see, thousands of crores of rupees are spent, and they are actually needed today. These loan waivers and all these are needed because people are dying. But why this happened? Because after independence, these are the tendencies, these are the ways that we have run this country. So that's a big problem. But the bigger problem is that still we are going in a same direction. That is the issue. So India's 2.2% expenditure of the budget and per capita spending is 458 rupees. That's 100 times less than USA's expenditure, 1/100th of the USA's expenditure. And you see, these OECD countries and other developed countries, they are also spending very high, although it's not a match up to the USA's expenditure. But India is nowhere near to even these countries who are spending around half of the USA's numbers. But India is nowhere there. Even their expenditure is 50 times higher than India. Now see, 6,400 crore allocation to this Ayushman Bharat scheme. It is going to reduce this out of pocket expenditure. Certainly it is the main focus, and that should be there. Per capita budget expenditure on health in India is among the lowest in the world. So what can be a bigger worry? We have challenges of NCDs. India is a den of diabetic patients, cancer patients, COPD, compulsive obstructive pulmonary disease patients, and kidney ailments, coronary artery diseases. All these are non-communicable diseases, and they are fatal, highly fatal. That's why out of for every one person out of 4 people, okay, that is becoming a cancer patient when he is going to diagnose himself. So what can be a worse situation than that? We are not able to complete these targets of tuberculosis disease, which is converted now into MDR-TB, multi-drug resistant TB, and in some areas XDR-TB, extensive drug resistant TB. No drugs are working. We have made a target of 2025 for this particular disease of TB, but that looks nearly impossible to these scholars and doctors, health specialists. They are saying the way we are moving, the way the conditions of rapid urbanization, they are worsening. We are never going to complete this target till 2025 year. So it's a huge issue. So these communicable diseases are already there: dengue, chikungunya, and swine flu, which have become regular every year. So we are not being able to contain these diseases, and here these NCDs are scaring us. Within 10 to 15 years, the biggest number of cancer patients, half of the population of the diabetic patients, they would be there in India, and maximum number of COPD patients, maximum number of kidney ailments, liver diseases, and these coronary artery disease, hypertension patients, they will be there in India. So you can see, what do we need? We need more than 10% of the GDP expenditure on health today if we want to become a superpower within 20 to 25 years. And recently we saw India's vision of 2030, where they said that poverty and all these disease, they would become the thing of the past, and it would be a completely changed India within 10 years. But how they are going to do it, that's a most important question for me, that how they are going to make it possible within 10 years. So we have to see that. And these data's health and wellness centers, as I told you, in the Ayushman Bharat scheme, here these awareness and the education aspect for this preventive health, these are not covered. And you see, for this National Urban Health Mission, it is the component of NHM. NHM has 2 components, the rural component NRHM and the urban one NUHM. Okay, so under this NUHM, the allocation is done only 250 crore rupees, only 250 crore rupees, where more than 30 to 50% of the population today is living in the urban areas, according to some data. And to the NRHM sector, 1350 crore rupees are allocated this time. So hardly they are going to change the situation on the ground, because these allocations are very less. and you see 275 crore rupees were there for these non-communicable disease like cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, but now it has come to 175 crore, a less amount. And we are a signatory of the FCTC, Framework Convention on the Tobacco Control 2004 by WHO. We are a signatory, but our allocations, they have decreased. This time we are allocating only 65 crore rupees, and last time it was 67 crore rupees. So you can see what is our intention, and India is having the biggest number of patients who are dying because of the tobacco caused cancer. Okay, so these are the data that these are showing a mirror to the government and a reality to the people. Although AIIMS Delhi, which is having the biggest burden of the tertiary care, and all people from this whole country, they are flocking to AIIMS Delhi because that is the best option available for the poor people. So that alone has been allocated nearly 3600 crore rupees. So that is all a condition, because it is the situation like this. So 3600 crore rupees allocation is a good amount for AIIMS. It's a 20% increase. But under this Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana, they are developing AIIMS like hospitals all over India, and there this allocation is nowhere near to the sufficient amount. So that we need to see here. Next, prevention and its link to GDP. You see, Niti Aayog has proposed higher taxes on tobacco and alcohol and unhealthy food consumption, but a focused approach for this tobacco and alcohol and taxes on these things, that is not considered under this interim budget. We should consider this, and the preventive aspect regarding these non-communicable disease. You see, the preventive oncology and the prevention of chronic kidney ailments, they don't find a bigger mention here. They don't find a specific resource allocation in the budget. You see, 15 to 70% people among India's population, they are having kidney ailments and these chronic kidney diseases. So the huge amount of their salaries that is going into these dialysis and other kinds of treatments, which are very expensive, and every day they need thousands of rupees. And bigger problem is this asymptomatic chronic kidney disease that does not have many symptoms, and that is why it is not cured, because people don't go to doctors and they don't have any kind of idea regarding these developing a disease inside their bodies. And the same thing is there with the cancer patients. Many people, they are not going for the screening and the diagnosis for the cancer disease. That's why mostly they go to hospitals and these tertiary care hospitals only when things are out of their hands, and in stage 3 and stage 4 they are mostly diagnosed, and that's why the death rate is high and cure rate is very, very low. And 70% of people are like this, who are diagnosed in stage 3 or stage 4, and these are the most advanced stages where the cure becomes nearly impossible. Otherwise, in the early stages, when benign tumors are there, or there is stage 1 or stage 2, then the management of cancer is possible, and many people are saving their lives with these chemotherapies and radiotherapies and today's molecular therapies. But you see, for the stage 3 and 4 patients, it is nearly impossible. So the one more aspect is also there, that advanced cancer cost, that is 3 to 4 times high than the treatment of early cancer. So it's an economic burden also when they are diagnosed late. So we need to take care of all these things, and prevention in this disease like cancer, that is of extreme importance, because the age group of above 50, that is mostly a target of this disease, and they are most sensitive people, so they should go for a regular screening. But these preventive measures, they are not finding any mention, and no specific resource allocation is done under the budget. So that's a huge issue. And you see, within 10 to 15 years, according to our data, that maximum number of cancer patients would be living in India, and not only living, they are going to die a very tragic death, because the death is very painful with the cancer disease, and that is why it is the most dreaded disease of our times. Now, increase of GDP alone does not guarantee health. We are all making claims of the higher GDP numbers. We have become sixth biggest nation and all. So all these tall claims are there, but that is never going to help our country in these health issues. You see, suppose a situation where we are coming in 20 to 25 fifth place in this world, but our population is healthy and we are not having major numbers of cancer patients, diabetic patients. All people are doing regular exercises and all are very positive in their lives, and they all are aspiring for a good employment, and mostly they are employed people. They are adding good GDP numbers in the longer terms. So everything would become positive, and in the longer term India would grow with a very fast pace, the way developed countries they grow in their numbers. So this thing would be possible for India if India is going to be a healthy nation. But if India's population is struggling with health issues, and half of these workers and half of these employees, they are taking leaves, and the issue of DALY, daily adjusted life years, these are the issues because of the health reasons. If these are common things in India, then certainly our GDP numbers are also going to come down, and it is all because of the health reasons. So we don't want a diseased nation, we want a healthy nation, and that is the first basis of the progress. Health is wealth. We all know health is wealth, and a healthy mind only lives in the healthy body. That is the ultimate truth. So we need to take care about our health and our health sector spendings. And you see, we have to take this thing like on a war scale, and we have to take the health sector as a defense sector, because always we talk about the securities, but health is the biggest security for a country. So that is all talked about in this article. Next article, at the cost of equality. It is important in the GS paper 3. It is talking about the recent event of stipend hike, and that is 25% around for these JRF and SRF fellowships. Okay, these students, they were demanding 80% hike, and it was due for the last 5 years, and now they are getting less than 25% hike, and it is not acceptable to them. They are going to continue their protests, and the government is now planning to provide financial and academic incentives to enhance and recognize the performance of research fellows. So these steps are being taken by the government now after these protests. But you see, some issues remain. These scholars, these researchers, they need to publish many papers in these journals, and some are international journals and some are domestic journals. And domestic journals are also good. International journals are widely recognized, like Cell, Nature, Science. These are big journals. So in India now they are going to support, they are saying that we would pay 50,000 rupees for publication in the international journal, and for the domestic one it is 20,000 rupees, a meager 20,000 rupees. Now one more issue is there, that if we go by the Chinese example, when the impact factor of journals was used to calculate the prize money for the publication. But you see, after they announced this policy in China, then many unethical and scientific frauds they observed just to get this money. So that issue can also be there in India, but in India there is no body to address scientific frauds and unethical practices. So that would remain a problem. And this allocation of 20,000 and 50,000, that is also discriminatory, because many domestic journals, they are really good. They are better than some international journals. So how can you say that 20,000 rupees only for this domestic and 50,000 for international one? So the people who are deciding about these announcements, these are not applying their scientific minds, or whether they don't know anything about it. That is the thing that the writer wants to say here. One scientist, former director of Indian Institute of Science, P. Balaram, said it's a hair-brained scheme. It's not a good scheme, it's a foolish scheme to announce this one-time financial award. You see, whoever has come up with this is ignorant of the history of scientific publishing. They will destroy research with this particular scheme. How? You see, when they are doing this discrimination and they are not appreciating with a good financial support to these researchers, then certainly who would be who would be interested in doing in this research and these very hectic procedures which are followed under these researches. So who would be interested? Nobody. When they are not getting good salaries, good stipends or good fellowships, then they are going to exit from here, or they may flock to some other developed countries where these are highly appreciated. So ultimately you are destroying your own research, and where we are lagging a lot already. There used to be a academic performance indicators by UGC, and that was better than that, but now the sword hangs on the head of UGC, and UGC is going to be scrapped. So that's also a huge problem, and giving greater rewards for publication in international journals makes no sense. By giving 60% lower stipend to the students publishing in Indian journals, the government will unwittingly be widening the gap between Indian and international journals. And you see, these are the structural problems of the Indian scientific arena. And always scientists, they complain about this thing, that Indian science has some structural problems. And when fellowships get delayed and project funding is not released on time, these are the very common problems with the researchers. And government should reward good research. That is the thing. And the body should be there who can recognize, who can evaluate that which one are the genuine projects and which one are the scientific frauds which are submitted just to get the money. So there should be the body. So these common issues are going on. And you see one more issue of rewarding the patents. Getting a patent is not difficult, but you see there is 10 to 30,000 fee for filing a patent, and additionally 50,000 rupees is the cost for drafting, and after that annual fee is also there. So it amounts to more than lakh rupees, and they are providing a lakh rupee incentive for obtaining a patent. So that amounts to nothing, that's adding nothing, and that is never can be called any appraisal. Now see, Science Ministry has not learned from the mistakes of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, the main body for the scientific research in India. You see, they saw a problem that majority of patents which were submitted, those were biodata patents, and those could not be called genuine researchers. So getting patent is not a big thing, it's not a huge issue. Where you should invest more in regular fellowships, and you should not make delays in these payments. So these common problems should be addressed first. So that is all about this article. Next article is about the Ayushman Bharat scheme and the cooperative federalism aspect of it. You see, it is not mandatory for the states. So some states like West Bengal, Telangana, Delhi and Odisha, they are not opting for this particular scheme. And the open allegation which was by Mamata Banerjee for this center government, that they are advertising their agenda through this, because a personalized letter is sent to these families where they are targeting more than 10 crore families. So to this 7.5 crore families till now, they have got a personalized letter by Prime Minister Modi, and a photograph is there. So according to this particular complaint, that psychologically they are advertising their own agendas, and the party symbol is also there. So that's why these states have problem. And you see, political tussles are always there. These are different parties, and the center's BJP is a different party. So this tussle is going on, and the tussle between West Bengal government and the Indian government is huge. Now we have seen the issue of Kolkata incident. Now see, when it's a centrally sponsored scheme, it's not a central sector scheme. Central sector schemes funding is done 100% by center, but sponsored schemes, they are having ratios, center versus state. Here in this Ayushman Bharat, 60% fund is given by center and 40% fund is given by states. And you see, the health is the state issue. It is coming under the state list. These lists are there in Schedule 7. Okay, so union list, state list and concurrent lists are there. Health come under the state list. So the issue of maintaining these hospitals, all these burdens, financial issues, all are taken care by states. And in this Ayushman Bharat scheme, where the upgradation of the PHC, CSCs are there, and health and wellness centers are to be created here. So a lot of burden, the maintaining of these hospitals, that would come on the states, and states are saying we are paying 40% money in this scheme also, so we are the equal partners. Why these people from central government, they are only advertising their own agenda? That is the issue, and that's why we have better schemes and we can maintain our health sector. We are not going to opt for this Ayushman Bharat scheme. So that's why this has become an issue of a failure of cooperative federalism. And we are a quasi-federal state. States have some autonomy, and they have state list to make laws on some subjects. So states are also having their stakes, and without this cooperative federalism, India's state as a country, it cannot work properly. And with these kind of schemes where universalization and standardization is the norm, because these are centrally created schemes, and in the health sector, universalization and standardization, that does not help, because all the states, they have their own different problems, different type of demography, different type of diseases. Some are dry states, some are very wet states, and different type of diseases are there in the southern state of India, in the eastern part of India. So innovative models are needed, and these innovative models can be created by state governments. So that's why some component of explicitity should be there with all the states, and it should not be totally a universalized scheme, and that is also a point here. Now when they are saying that we are the equal partners, and there is a national health agency which is now converted to National Health Authority. This authority is actually a autonomous organization now under the Ministry of Health. Okay, so it is taking care about this architecture, its cost, procedure, everything, and monitoring this particular scheme. So they are requesting that this particular authority should balance these things, these innovations, and this universalization concept of Ayushman Bharat. And this should not be a failure, because it's a huge scheme, that is National Health Protection Scheme, and huge amount of 5 lakh rupees is announced for the families. So that's why it would bring a lot of change on the ground, and NHA's approach does not appear to be built on consensus that should be there. This consensus by the states should be there. These issues should be solved. Otherwise, it is going to be a failure. Next article, Trump and his generals. This article is not of much importance for us. It is not very much helpful from the exam point of view, but some issues are there, that when this State of the Union speech is again given by Mr. Trump, and some characteristic features are there with the Trump administration. As the first line says, not even US President Trump's worst enemies would deny that he has fulfilled many election campaign foreign policy promises, but these promises are much more negative in a sense, because he has withdrawn from climate change. That's negative. Iran nuclear deal, that became possible after a long struggle by Obama administration. So anyhow they made it possible, but again he has withdrawn from it. And Trans-Pacific Partnership, again that's a very ambitious initiative by America. He has withdrawn from that also. And controversially, from Tel Aviv city, the US has shifted its embassy to the controversial Jerusalem city, where no embassies are there, and now they are saying that we all should accept that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. So these are controversial decisions in the foreign policy by Trump administration. And about these withdrawing of the troops and to end the endless wars, that could have been a positive one, but now the stage has become like this, that America's influence in this whole world, that is on a decline, and that's why it has come to negotiating phases, where it is negotiating with the groups like Taliban, and it is demanding help from countries like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia in Syria issue. So this gives these evidences that America's influence is on extreme decline internationally. We should not say extreme, but certainly these things are open, which were not there. And the problem by the adversaries and the allegations which are there by the adversaries for the Trump administration, they are saying that USA's policy have been military centered since World War I, and since World War II we are having a kind of a hegemony in this world, and we had the greatest influence. But now the countries like China and Russia, they are on a rise, and this thing is totally open that USA's image is not that much great. Its influence on the world scale is not that much great, and it's on a decline actually. So that is somehow this decline is somehow supported by this Trump's administration, and they have isolated the country of America on the world scale by withdrawing from all these platforms, all these multilateral institutions and all, and this arrogant attitude of Trump that has isolated America in a sense. And now when these countries are challenging, China is challenging America, Russia is openly challenging America, this is all because the same influence is not there, and they know that administration of Trump is not efficient, and that is not like the previous presidents. And when issues are going on, when they are demanding help from countries like Pakistan, whom they had kicked so hard in a very recent past, but because of this Taliban factor, they are demanding help from Pakistan. And in the Syria issue, when they were demanding help from Saudi Arabia, the same Saudi Arabia who is involved with the Khashoggi's murder and the issues of criminal activities by Saudi Arabia in the Yemen issue, where it has created an havoc on this country like country of Yemen, and this country is totally devastated today the way Syria was devastated. So Saudi Arabia was on the same page with USA, but this much help was never demanded by Saudi Arabia by USA. USA was always dictating its policies, its directions, but now they are demanding help. So even the high level resignations are there, the way the Secretary of Defense James Mattis said that I'm resigning because Trump wants some people who are actually supporting his own ideas, and he wants his own people in this foreign policy decisions. And in the case of ISIS also, America was not that much successful. Actually the Kurds, the Kurdistan people, okay, these Kurds were actually the fighters against these ISIS groups, and they were a major help for USA to controlling this ISIS, and that is actually not totally controlled, and that is not totally ended in its influence. They are spread in various areas. So here also USA has failed in a sense. It is not totally successful. These Kurds were supported by USA, and these Kurds are declared as terror groups by Turkey. So Turkey has also raised many issues against USA's presence there. So USA's presence is there in Syria, USA's presence is there in Afghanistan, but nowhere its influence looks very robust, and at every place USA's influence is on a decline. In the case of exit from Afghanistan, we have seen it has become totally an insulting stage for USA, and they are now negotiating with the Taliban, who is dictating the terms now. Now China is expanding its influence heavily in the areas of Cambodia, Pakistan. They are bringing its military camps, and American public have never heard of these kind of developments by China. So China is a major factor, it's a major rival for USA now. Russia was a problem, and that's why in the Cold War phase and till 2016, all these leaders from America, they kept a particular equation, and they kept Russia under a particular balance. But now this balance is lost, and that's why it's a problem, huge problem. And China and Russia, they both are in a particular equation where they both are standing against USA, and USA is having many more challenges in the future. Okay, so China is developing the capacity to dissuade, deter and defeat a potential third party. You see, if USA comes in a particular area like Pakistan or some other area in Indochina, then if the conflict is already going on between China and say for some other country like India, if USA involves here, then certainly China has the capacity today. It is ready for the third party intervention. That is the issue. So China probably poses the greatest threat to USA according to the Joint Chief of Staff General Joseph Dunford. So these things are evident now, and this declining influence and the isolated America and a self-centered America, how it is going to behave in the future, that depends on a lot of situation. And this international scenario and the world order is totally disturbed today. No rules we see in this world today. And anyhow, in these developments, we need to see India's position and India's involvement, where it should stop, where it should actively participate. Areas are there like Afghanistan, areas are there like BRICS and these multilateral institutions. And because India's stakes are rising very fast, and in the issues of Iran and Middle East also, we have some apprehensions. So all these developments would matter a lot. So this is all for today, and tomorrow we are going to discuss these facts. Today it was Thursday, many articles were there. From tomorrow we would balance these things out. Thanks a lot, keep watching. It was Amit Saini.